Now it's 10:30 a.m. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome and good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Hope you had a great long family weekend where you can't spend time with family, but hey, just the same, it's 3 days, right? So I'd like to call to order by suggesting that pursuant to the section 4.2 of the Englishman River Water Service Joint Venture Agreement, the management board must elect a chair from among its members on the basis of one vote for each member. So I would like to conduct that. I ask for nominations first for the position of chair. I understand it's a one-year position. Chair recognizes Mayor Main.
Thank you, Chair. I would nominate yourself, Doug O'Brien.
As to your request, I will let my name stand. Thank you.
Thank you. We need a seconder. We need a seconder for it, Leanne.
The chair recognizes Leanne Wallace seconding that motion for
Correct.
the nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations at this time? I'll ask one more time. Is there any other nominations at this time? Hearing none, I would like to call a vote on the nomination of Councillor Doug O'Brien as chair for the Englishman River Water Service Joint Venture for 2021. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, it looks like it carries. So I would assume that I would be now the elected chair, so I will assume the chair at this time, if I may. So moving right along, we need to do approval of the agenda as presented anyways. So I have a mover and seconder for the agenda as presented. Thank you, Director Wallace. And I also have Mayor Ed Main seconding that. Thank you very much. Are there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? This is carried. Thank you. We'd like to move at this time to move the adoption of the minutes. Adoption of the minutes from the Englishman River Water Service Board meeting, December 18th, 2020. If on 4.1 on our current agenda, do I have a mover and a seconder, please, for the adoption of the minutes? I see Director Rogers moved and seconded by Mayor Main. Thank you very much. Are there all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried. It would appear that we have no delegations at this time. Is there any correspondence? None. Any unfinished business prior? I see none. We'll move on then to the English. If I may, we'd move on 1 second, just squeezing through my notes to get this right. Forgive me, I'm working on two computers and a and a sheaf of paper here, so I'm getting there. Thank you. Pursuant to Englishman River Water Service Plan 7.1 on our agenda, we have the attachments and so forth. I would like to separate this if I may. So item one on the attachments is Regional District of Nanaimo Board Minutes dated January 26, 21. Resolution number 21568, Englishman River Water Service 2020-25 financial plan. I request a mover and a seconder on this item of attachment, please.
If I may, Chair O'Brien.
Yes, thanks.
If you wish to receive these items together or separately, I think that's fine, but I'm not sure that the members are clear that you're just looking for a motion to receive at this time.
Yeah, sorry, I was not that clear on it. At this point, I would like to just ask to receive the following attachments. Thank you. Item number 2, receive the report approval of the Englishman River Water Service 2021-25 financial plan, Water Service Management Board on 28th, 18th, 2020. All those in favor of receiving. Thank you. Number 3 is corrected Schedule A, Englishman River Water Service 2025 financial plan approval as amended by ERWS Board, December 18th, 2020, as receiving. Thank you. 4, Englishman River Water Service Joint Venture Agreement 2016, as received. Thank you. Need a little help here from the CAO at this point. Do I ask for the agenda?
Yes, if I may, Chair O'Brien, staff wouldn't mind if we could just have a moment to explain why this item has come back to the board, if I may.
Thank you. I'll defer to staff for a report on that very same reason. Thank you, CAO Kiva.
Sure. So the members of the ERWS board may be aware that when you approved the budget on December 18th, that requires that budget then and your recommendation to go to the respective joint venture parties. So that would be the RDN board and the City of Parksville Council. In the past, for the Parksville members, we usually adopt this as part of our normal budget discussions at the city. And so it doesn't come as a separate large item. It's really just a slide on the budget presentation. But my understanding was that the RDN board brings the item back and votes on it with the 2 members of the ERWS board that also sit on the board. So that would be the area directors for electoral areas E and G. And so when this was brought to the RDN board on January 26th with the recommendation that the ERWS board approved the financial plan, it did not pass at the regional district board. And so the agreement that we've operated on and that we're currently operating under requires that if after 2 meetings of the ERWS board, and then another 15-day wait period, if you can't come to an agreement on the budget that is adoptable or approvable by the 2 parties, we then have to go into an arbitration situation. So basically what we're doing at this point is letting this ERWS board know that your recommendation from December 18th, which you debated and passed the budget for the ERWS, that failed at the regional district board. It has not yet gone to Parksville Council. It's actually due to go in the next short period of time as we head into budget discussions. But we're really just bringing the information to this board and I suppose allowing the opportunity for the board to discuss the reasons perhaps for the vote at the RDN board, or whether there's any need to review your decision from December 18th, or if you're confirming your decision from December 18th. And so perhaps the RDN staff may, depending on the conversation, they may need to weigh in on what will happen at the RDN board. But really this is just an advisory notice for the ERWS board that your recommendation was not accepted by the RDN board on January 26th.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Director Wallace with a question or a comment.
A question. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the question about the 2019 process. I was not able, this would be a question to RDN staff. I was not able to find where the 2019 budget came back to the RDN agenda. And I'm wondering why that would have happened in 2019. How that would have happened differently, I guess, is my question.
I would request that, I guess, from the RDN staff, could we have a comment from, I see Randy is now turned on video. Thank you, Randy. I recognize Randy Alexander from RDN.
Thank you, through the chair. My understanding and my recollection of the 2019 budget was that it came forward to the board as part of the minutes of the ERWS minutes of their meeting of that year that adopted the financial plan. And so that was brought forward for the RDN board consideration as part of the minutes. So it wasn't a separate report and was considered at that time. So that's my recollection of the process. And my understanding is the voting process was the same as it was this year.
Any follow-up required for Director Wallace?
Yes, thank you. Follow-up. I've gone back through the minutes and I couldn't actually find where the RDN board voted twice on the budget in 2019. So I guess I'm just wondering if it was dealt with that committee and it was, then it came back to the RDN board for additional vote. I don't understand how a weighted vote for ERWS turns into a 50-50 vote at the RDN. And so I'm wondering if in the terms of the current agreement, which I also couldn't find, why in 2019 it could be adopted as correspondence in the minutes, whereas in 2020 now for 2021 budget, it came back for an additional vote. That's what I'm looking for clarity on, at what triggered an additional vote at the RDN board.
So I would have to look back into what transpired in 2019, but the vote in 2020 was a follow-up on the ERWS board's recommendation that the joint venturers adopt their portion of the budget. So that's what went to the RDN board for consideration, was adoption of their portion of the ERWS budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mayor Ed Main.
Thanks, Chair. Couple points here. First off, I'm going to be asking the board at the next board meeting that they rescind the decision that was made by the board on that, based on the fact that we have no recollection as to how it ends up to be two votes, and one vote where the Area E provides funding towards the costs of the ERWS, and Area G, which doesn't provide funding for it, and why, if that's the case, why Parksville wouldn't be included in those votes as well. So I'm going to be asking for the board to rescind that vote. Secondly, I think what we have to decide here today is if we're prepared to stay with the original proposal. If we are, then we're at loggerheads until the board either rescinds their approval or they change their mind on this. But this whole thing is becoming very, very cumbersome. If we continue on the format that we're continuing on right now, then there's no need for the ERWS board. Because what's going to happen is if I don't like something that's going to go through, then I'm going to take it back to council. Council will turn it down and we're at loggerheads. If the RDN doesn't like something, then it gets taken back to them. They doesn't. So nothing, you could theoretically tie the hands of this board up where nothing ever gets approved on it. We've either got to fix it or we got to change the format to which we're doing. I think all of that has to do with looking at the agreement. The agreement was put together in good faith, but obviously not thought through as to how this all works. There's a lot of questions on this, and it has to be fixed. I believe that the city of Parksville was 76% of the vote on here. to have them have it snubbed in the fact that the region says, no, we don't want to do that. And then it becomes a no, you don't want to do it and you don't. There's something wrong with that whole philosophy of it. So we either have to fix the problem, eliminate the board, and just let the two departments, the city council and the regional board, have these conversations, or I guess that's the only reasonable. I mean, the other alternative is ludicrous in the fact that we just say, RDN, we're not prepared to go any further with this joint venture agreement. So I don't particularly think that's a wise decision to make. But having said that, those are really the three areas that we have to deal with. And we got to get it fixed now. And unfortunately, we've let it go until we get to the day before, or the 2 weeks before the region has to file their budgets. So now the gun's to everybody's head. Make a decision, quick. And this shouldn't be a quick decision, because we've got to think the whole thing through and what the ramifications are in the future for this. So that's my views on this, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Main, and I'll throw in my 2 bits worth here as well. It seems it's a very odd situation that the vote got turned back to 2 members and not the city of Parksville being included. I could find no prior precedent for this actually having happened in the past either, I believe, which is believe what Director Wallace was referring to as well. I tried to see where this happened because it seems very odd. The mechanics of this is doomed to failure to have this process in place. However, here we are. Moving on, I would like to maybe make a couple comments here. I went through the meeting that was passed as was. I looked at the voting rating on it type of thing, and where the contentious issues, and so I'll direct the question to Director Rogers at this particular point. Seeing that we passed it exactly the contentious issues that you voted against at the RDN level were probably surrounding the ones that you opposed anyways in that meeting regarding the $50,000 from the aquifer storage report to be amended to remove that. And the other was the second and main motion that the surplus from funds be carried forward to the spending package. You opposed both of those, Director Rogers. But however, since that time, I have understand anyways that the RDN has offered to carry through with I'm assuming it's an in-kind donation of time to bring the aquifer storage recovery to a conclusion or a summary, as you have requested. With that being known, that they would do this type of thing, so therefore, the 50,000 wouldn't be recovered anyways. Knowing that now, would you be willing to re-vote at the RDN level in between yourselves and Leanne Wallace just to get this budget through to approve the budget that we passed? Or I really like your comments on this, Director Rogers.
Yeah, thanks, Chair O'Brien. The my views with respect to the value of doing the summary report on the aquifer storage and recovery haven't changed. I think it's important. I think when we look at the recommendations that we received from the staff committee, from the combined staff committee in December, that report and recommendations with respect to the budget included that $50,000 for that study, and it also included money going forward in reserve for the Englishman River Water Services. I don't agree with both those. I think they are misguided with those. And also with respect to putting the 50,000 into 2022 for the study on storage and looking at upland storage. I don't think that is a valid expenditure of the community's money, either for Parksville or for electoral area E. But so be it. That's how Parksville has voted on this. I still think it's a mistake to not do the aquifer storage and recovery report and study. And the But with respect to Parksville participating, that does not seem likely. And certainly I'm not trying to be obstructionist here. It's a matter of principle that we need to go forward. I have referenced over the last several years that I've been on the RDN, the challenge with respect to the voting circumstance on ERWS matters when it comes, whether one person, whether the director from Area E, which funds the ERWS 26% portion from the RDN, whether that director votes in the negative or in the positive, that can always be countered by a second vote. And so as Director Main said, it's a challenge within the RDN where that sort of vote can end into the vote not passing because of being a tie vote. And that is a challenge, and that does need to be corrected in my mind. With respect to the joint venture, I think this joint venture has been a great success and so on and that over the years and so on. But what it does have to do when you're in a joint venture, it has to recognize that there are two parties to it. And so the party that may be the majority participant in the joint venture, their interests and so on, and their views, I think, also have to be respected by the party that has the majority participation within that joint venture. I don't think that has been adequately considered in this, but we'll leave that to the rest of the members of that of the ERWS board. If we were to take a look at a revote on the ERWS budget, I'm still not comfortable with aspects in there. But with the recognition that Parksville's not likely to change their views on something that is a joint venture with two partners and with a majority partner, their interests and so on should be recognized as well. But we'll leave it at that. And there is no changes I see within this with respect to what we have here on the agenda. There's no changes here with respect to the budget. If we had a vote on the budget within this committee, I would still be voting opposed to those sections of the ERWS budget within this management board. What will transpire if it were to come back to a revote at the RDN board? As some of you voted in the negative, I don't have the opportunity to reconsider that vote and so on. That only comes from someone who voted in favor of it. So that means Director Wallace would have an opportunity at the board to move that be reconsidered. And so that's where it sits. Director Wallace can move that it be reconsidered, and then we can go forward from there.
Thank you, Director Rogers. Are you indicated that if Director Wallace did put that motion through, since you was in the affirmative, that you would be voting in affirmative as well, or are you voting in negative again?
Well, as Mayor Main has indicated, and so on, it's a challenge with respect to this this structure that we're in this position where the director who is responsible for the electoral area that directly funds this 26 proportion of it, if they vote in favor of something and the other director on the board votes against it, then it doesn't pass that vote. So that is it's a strange situation and something that does present a challenge to the RDN, and therefore it presents a challenge to this English River Management Board. So it is a challenge. It is certainly not from a point of being an obstructionist that some people may think that I'm considering it is a matter of very much of the recommendations from staff were, and in my mind and my understanding still do remain, that we should be carrying out a conclusive report and summary of with respect to the aquifer storage and recovery. But the other members of this board do not share that support of that recommendation. So we're caught in this, which is a bind.
But as I understand the Director Rogers, I understand the RDN have offered to do a summary program for the ASR. And you're not satisfied with that, is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, but that's not what we're talking about here. I may well be satisfied with that, but what we're talking about here is the Englishman River Water Services Board and the Englishman River Water Services budget. So within that.
I understand. So I'm still trying to move on here. You didn't answer my question. If Director Wallace does put that through again for a revote, will you vote in affirmative?
Well, what you're asking for, Councillor O'Brien, is me looking forward to a couple of meetings and saying, okay, here's how I'm going to vote ahead of time. I'm on an RDN matter, not on a Parksville Council matter. And I don't think I could go and say to you, Mr. O'Brien, how are you going to vote on your next council meeting?
Well, the thing is that I'm trying to move on. There has been some consideration anyways as to the RDN discussing and putting through an ASR study summary for you, which was one of the issues that you did. I'm not going to debate all those items again, like you have already mentioned again. I don't think it's worth it here at this particular point, whether it's the aquifer storage recovery and as far as the water storage options, because that was already passed at the last ERWS meeting. So it's not going to be discussed again at this time because that was already passed and completed and carried. So the thing is that I would suggest that then we'll just have to let that play as it may. Director Rogers, I would hope that Director Wallace would bring that back up again at the RDN level anyways and put that up for a revote. I see Mayor Ed Main has his hand up. I recognize Mayor Main.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just noticed that CAO Carlisle, his picture has come up on our screen with her hand raised. So I would love to hear from her before we go further.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize, Director CAO Carlisle. I didn't see you. You were off in my far distant corner on my screen. So there you are. I see you. Sorry, I recognize. Please comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify here that, can you hear me okay?
You're okay now.
Okay. I just want to clarify, and Randy will correct me if I'm wrong, is that one proposal that we had been looking at the staff level at the RDN was simply that RDN staff would take over the management of the aquifer study, but we'd still need the 50,000, but we would not have Parksville staff having to work on that. We'd take that over as a project to eliminate some of the need for the Parksville staff to be involved in that, but we would still need the $50,000 funding. And whether or not that funding comes from Director Rogers himself or not, that's certainly something that we were discussing at the staff level. I think the thing that is concerning us at the RDN is that at the staff level is that there are capital projects that need to take place. And Kiva is the expert on those, but those capital projects cannot be delayed. And I believe that the City of Parksville has a report going forward where those capital projects are mentioned tomorrow. And if we delay those capital projects, then that has implications, my understanding is, on our French Creek Pollution Control Center and capacity there. And so the capital projects, I believe, were all agreed to, and there is a need to move forward with those. Unfortunately, what we see in the joint venture agreement is that if a joint venture fails to approve the budget, that we are hindered and stuck with last year's budget, which means that the RDN would not be contributing towards those capital projects, which I think are acknowledged as worthwhile. So at the staff level at the RDN, if we don't see resolution, then we feel that we're going to have to bring a report to the RDN board indicating exactly what the board may decide today, of course, indicating that those capital projects are, from a staff perspective, crucial in terms of moving those forward. We've had information from the experts, and just also that the need to not be hindered with last year's budget, that we actually need to move this forward. And we are facing the deadline, as His Worship mentioned, Mayor Main, that we have a deadline for our budget of March 31st. We were hoping to get it done next week. So we're running out of time. And we are looking at the voting structure. So far, my corporate officer has not indicated that there was any problem with the voting structure. I have asked her to get legal advice on that. And we're hopeful that we have that independent legal advice shortly. So I just wanted to update to you that I think that RDN staff, if there's no resolution today at this board, we still feel obligated to include those capital projects and to tell our board that there is a need for those capital projects to go ahead, and that there is a downside to the RDN if those capital projects do not go ahead. So I'm sorry if I've taken up too much time, but I just thought I would provide a bit of background of the conversations that RDN staff have been having, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CAO Carlisle. Your comments and the urgency of this is certainly appreciated. I too, from the past reports anyways, we have some capital expenditures that have to be done for the ERWS plan that are very sensitive right now to be carried out, and we need to move forward on this, folks. And so the thing is that we got to get going. I understand what you're saying, Director Rogers, but I understand that maybe this is not the time to delay any further with the interests of the entire all parties here at the table today. But so be it. As I say, I can't get affirmation of what your vote may be if it goes back, if Director Wallace redoes it. I can only let that stand, your statement as it is. I recognize Mary Main.
Thank you, Chair. And just to touch on a few things. First off, yes, there are two parties in here, as Director Rogers has mentioned, but it's a democracy. There's 76% of the vote comes to the city of Parksville because we pay 76% of the cost. We paid 76% of the cost of building the facility and operating it. Therefore, we do have the majority of the vote here. It went for a debate. It was debated. It was both items, the contentious two items that we're speaking to were defeated, and we moved on with it. So having said that, you know, now the question comes is if we pass this, or if we pass the budget and then it doesn't get passed at the board level, at the regional board level, we're right back to what my comments were earlier, that this now becomes an obstacle in how we operate, because in the future, it's very simple. And now that we know how this works, one of the two organizations, either the city of Parksville or the regional district, just votes against it, and we bring it to a screeching halt. So I understand. We will be bringing to council here very shortly the fact that the city of Parksville will pay, if we have to, for these capital projects that need to be done in an emergency situation or in a hurry, as the CAO has indicated, and I much appreciated her comments. But, you know, we'll work about who pays for it, how the RDN is going to help pay for it in the future. That can come up, but we need to get this put behind us. I'm not prepared to spend the $50,000 on this. I think that was the whole discussion. We went through it and through it and through it. I think our meeting went 3.5 hours the last time, and now we're doing it again. I'm not prepared to make that the change in the budget, and I'm not prepared to make the change for the $100,000 in the reserve account. So I think we've, you know, Parksville having 76% of the vote should be recognized as, you know, being able to carry this forward if that were the case. If the region wants to pay us back the monies and bring their share up to 59.1%, then they would get the say of how this works. But at this point in time, we have the majority. So I hate to put it that way. It's too abrupt, and it's not meant to be derogatory to anybody or anything. I just think that we need to move forward on this, and we're going to have to. So this is our first meeting. We'll have to call immediately a second meeting to see if we get any further, and then we'll go to arbitration if need be.
Thank you, Mayor Main. The chair recognizes Director Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. So I did have a question to staff, whether an amendment to the agreement for a 2021 financial plan adoption is possible, based on the fact that the board, the ERWS board, although not unanimous, weighted in favor of the 2021. Is that an option? If Randy Alexander could answer my question, Chair. Thank you.
There you are. Okay, I see Randy recognizes Randy Alexander, please.
So with respect to the joint venture agreement, the ERWS board on December 18th directed staff to renew the agreement. So through that process, which is underway right now, we're looking at matters of where it's appropriate to amend this agreement for the next 5 years. So and the issues that have been raised through this process, certainly we're going to have a look at and we'll factor into that.
And a follow-up, if I may, Chair.
Go ahead.
So Area G paid into this service in some accord in the beginning, and I'm actually quite pleased that Area G did that in the past, because it allows for really good discussion around, for example, this aquifer study. You know, I look at the page 11 of the agenda where the statement is made. In many applications around the world, it has proven to be a very cost-effective means of water storage. When we asked the question in the committee where, we didn't get an answer. So I feel as if the right decision was made, and I'm happy Area G has a say in this process. But moving forward, I can see that that's at risk. So I'm wondering how Area G could possibly buy back into ERWS, looking at other water issues in the area. I'm assuming this would be part of some sort of deliberation regarding the agreement, but may also provide a little more balance to the future. So just to summarize then, what does Area G have in this system from its initial input? And then what is the value that Area G could receive for that input in the early days? And could that look like a buy-in option in the future?
Thank you, Director Wallace. I appreciate that, and I'm really interested in the answer to that question as well. Thank you. To Randy Alexander, I suppose.
So the agreement does provide a mechanism for electoral Area G to buy back in terms of reallocating a portion of the RDN allocation. So there's a process in that. I can't provide the details at this moment, but there is a process laid out in the agreement for that with respect to allocating the amount of the RDN component between Area G and Area E. The agreement does also provide opportunities for provision of bulk water to other parties. So it's a complicated question, and we'd have to look at providing a fulsome answer to that.
Yeah, follow up if I might. Do you need a motion then to provide that as part of the agreement? Because I think one of the issues that I recognize that Director Rogers is having a hard time with here is that G doesn't pay in yet, but G has a say. And again, I think that we all have a say as members of the regional district about the direction we set for staff regarding policy and direction on how we handle something as important as drinking water. So I think that the more representation for items like this would be better. So yes, do you need a board motion to provide a report to see how Area G could buy back into the percentage for the RDN then?
I believe we can consider that as part of our review and updating of the agreement and bring recommendations forward. I'm not sure that we need a board motion. Perhaps Ms. Carlisle can clarify that for me.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful at this board if that's something you want to examine to give us that direction. And I think a motion would actually be helpful just because that will take us down another path. And if you're reallocating water, what's the distribution area that you're going to allocate the water to? Will parts of Area G now be serviced by this system, or will they not be serviced? So you need some basic questions answered, and I think it would be easier rather than us kind of wandering without some direction from you. If this is something you'd like to consider, then we should do some work on that. And I think it would be nice to have a direction just to ensure that everyone knows that we are working on that. And that's a direction to Parksville staff as well to say, okay, what's the capacity Parksville has? Is there extra capacity? Where would that be allocated? What does rational growth look like? And certainly involves land use planning as well, if it's to supply another area that's not currently serviced under this agreement with water. And so that would be something that we could bring back the broader planning perspective for as well.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up, if I might, then.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Director Wallace.
Yeah, right. So I would be, I would think that the best way to move forward on that would be that I would work with staff to hone the language on a draft motion that would incorporate the issues and challenges that we see with water storage and potentially look at the service area for ERWS for G. So I don't believe that I'm researched enough to be able to provide a motion other than very high level or general as part of today, but I offer that as perhaps a better way forward for this joint venture. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, what we could do as staff is we could start doing some work on that, and so that there's no delay, because I know that the meetings aren't that frequent. So we can certainly start doing the background work on that.
I thank you, CAO Carlisle, for that. I believe that would be the appropriate, instead of putting forth a motion at this time, it would have to be a new business, so it's not to muddy the previous meeting that we've already had. I appreciate Director Wallace's interest in it, and to reform her motion at the appropriate time, I think would be a good way to move forward. Thank you very much. And I saw, any follow-up, Director Wallace? Are you okay?
I know that's very clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in line was Director Rogers, had his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair O'Brien. One of the things that that we're not discussing here, and certainly I haven't heard any motions today with respect to changing anything from our previous meeting with respect to the budget. So there's no motions up for discussions on that. And I would just point out that relative to the importance of the capital projects going forward, I agree as much as anybody in this meeting that those are important projects that need to move forward. And I guess I take a bit of exception to some of the comments relative to the value of directors being able to be opposed to to a motion with respect to budget within the ERWS, and then thinking that yeah, if you can't oppose that, and if the ERWS board says, okay, we're in favor, except for Director Rogers, we're in favor of all the aspects within the budget and so on, there should be no problem. And I'm concerned that directors think that there's a problem with directors raising concern about the budget within the ERWS. My concerns were such that I didn't feel comfortable moving that forward at the RDN and so on, but I do fully recognize the value of the capital projects within the ERWS budget that do have to go forward. And and I do recognize that the fellow directors, from Directors Main and Wallace and O'Brien, that you're not going to change your minds on this and so on and that. And I'm still not comfortable with the ERWS budget, but I certainly recognize that moving it forward and so on with respect to the capital aspects is important. So it'll have to, if Director Wallace's moves for it to be reconsidered at the RDN board, I will take a look at that and so on. But without telling you I'm going to vote yes or no, I'll tell you that I do appreciate the importance of the capital projects that are going forward and the importance of the ERWF budget and the ERWS joint venture. So that is something that I've supported for a number of years.
Thank you, Director Rogers, for your comments. And I agree, it is obviously your right. You're right to disagree on anything. As Mayor Main pointed out, this is a democracy. What is not apparently in the spirit of democracy is the fact that City Parksville, being 76% contributor on this particular thing, does not have a vote at that table, whether it's a weighted vote or whether it's just one vote. I think that is the issue that really needs to be dealt with, so that you and others can have the right at that level to still vote your objections anyways to it. But I believe that it's ludicrous that the City of Parksville does not have even a single vote at that table, let alone weighted. So but I thank you for your comments, and I do agree that is your right. Chair recognizes Mayor Ed Main.
Thanks, Chair. First off, I don't think any of us have any disagreement that there's no issue with voting in favor or against a particular item. That's what all of us are here for. If we were all in favor, we wouldn't need this board at all. So Director Rogers, it's not aimed at you. What has happened here is this has disclosed that there is a major issue in the joint venture agreement that deadlocks this system and doesn't allow it to flow evenly through the way it's supposed to. So I take exception with the fact that we're painting you in particular with a brush because you voted against it. That's your right, and you have every right to do that, and I respect that right. As I would hope that you would respect the right that the majority contributor, the majority of the votes, has the right to keep going forward, and it shouldn't be stopped because of that. So I think we have to keep moving forward. I'm not so sure that I agree with all of the comments made by the CAO on, they would take over and do all of that stuff. I don't think at this point in time, the decision of what area G and what area E do, that's none of the business of the, at this point in time, it's no business of the ERWS as to how you're going to split your water allocations. So that is a board. Now I've taken my hat off as a regional director, and I'm putting my hat on as a member of this board. And I'm saying that's up to the board to decide how they're going to do it, who's going to pay for it. And if they pay for it, then should they get a vote? Sure, but should that vote be a whole vote? Should it be a portion vote? There's a billion questions at that point in time that need to be done. But I think this has got to go back to the regional board first and decide if Area G is in fact going to be a part of this and participate in this and contribute to it. The way I understand it right now, it's 26%. And if you split the water in half, it's 13% each. If it's more than that, then we have to just sit down and discuss it. But I'm not sure why the ERWS would get involved until the region has decided what they're going to do. And once the region's decided, then we go forward from there at this level. That just to me seems like the logical way to process this. I'm not sure I want to get in the middle of making decisions for the region at this table.
I appreciate that, Mayor Main. I recognize exactly what you're suggesting here, that this is a region decision at that time, but I would hope that in between CAO Carlisle and Director Wallace, they'll come to some answers to the questions raised by Director Wallace as to what is the process to be able to allow her area to buy into it or to continue to maybe contribute, and how would that process take place? I think it's a discovery process at this point, and I applaud that, and I think we could leave it at that at this point. Any other questions or?
Let's move on.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding this? Okay, so as Director Rogers has pointed out, there's no motions on the floor. What we could do is we could just say, is there any new business at this time? Anybody have any new business? None at all. I would like to ask if there's a mover and a seconder for adjournment at this time. Moved by Mayor Ed Main and seconded by Director Wallace. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thanks, folks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Checking out.